Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Welcome back to All-Star Buzz. Thanks for tuning in. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Now, let's get into it. It all began with a surprising revelation on the popular PBS series Finding Your Roots, where celebrities uncover hidden truths about their ancestry. One of the latest guests was The View co-host Sunny Hostin, known for her outspoken views on race, justice, and social issues. But what she discovered about her family's history shocked not only her, it left audiences speechless.
First, I just want to go on the record to let everyone know that I am very much against slavery.
Okay.
Very brave to say that on this panel. You know, karma, definitely. I mean, it's one thing. It's going to be so awkward on, you know, new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
You know?
She could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, like, I guess that's just what, like, they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before. That was like, to me, the one thing that was missing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, okay, now that you have this information, have you had any personal growth? Do you think about things differently? You have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because when you're presented with new information, it's okay to change your mind. It's good to change your mind, but you should acknowledge that that has happened.
If she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee. I don't know. That's not true.
That's not true.
But you think about things that she said and how offensive they are.
Yeah.
Well, karma.
Yeah, it is karma.
For years, Sunny Hostin proudly identified as half Puerto Rican, embracing a personal narrative rooted in cultural pride, marginalization, and the legacy of colonial struggle. But when researchers on Finding Your Roots dug deeper into her ancestry, they uncovered something she never expected. Her forebears weren't just Spanish, they were also slaveholders. The shock on Sunny's face as she heard the news was powerful, an unfiltered emotional reaction that spoke volumes. It was a raw, vulnerable moment that stood in stark contrast to the public image she had cultivated over the years. Instantly, the revelation sparked widespread discussion across social media and major news outlets. Now, questions loom. How will this discovery shape her message? What does it mean for her values, her activism, and the way she engages with America's complex history moving forward? Let's keep going.
She could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, like, I guess that's just what like they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before. That was like, to me, the one thing that was missing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, okay, now that you have this information, have you had any personal growth? Do you think about things differently? You have to acknowledge that. Yeah. Because when you're presented with new information, it's okay to change your mind. It's good to change your mind, but you should acknowledge that that has happened.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Sunny's unexpected family history didn't just shock her, it ignited a firestorm of reactions across the internet. And it wasn't long before one of her most outspoken critics, Greg Gutfeld, jumped into the fray. Known for his sharp wit and no-holds-barred commentary on The Five, Gutfeld seized the moment, delivering a scathing monologue that pulled no punches. He took direct aim at what he saw as glaring hypocrisy. Sunny has long built her public platform on confronting systemic racism and highlighting America's failures, both past and present. But now, with the revelation that her own ancestors had been slaveholders, Gutfeld argued that her stance had been turned upside down, and he wasn't about to let that slide. To Gutfeld, this wasn't just an awkward piece of family history. It was a moment that, in his view, revealed a contradiction at the heart of Sunny's public identity. He went beyond questioning the facts. He scrutinized her reaction. How, he asked, could someone so vocal about injustice respond so casually when the issue hit so close to home? The moment that caught Gutfeld's attention most was Sunny's response to the news that her ancestor had owned at least one enslaved person. She said, "I guess it's a fact of life. That's how some people made their living." To Gutfeld, that wasn't just a weak response, it was a complete dodge. For him, the issue wasn't just what Sunny learned about her past, but how she chose to handle it in the public eye.
That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the view's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
Oh, so you know what? Whoopi, you know, she thought like either the Nazis thought the Jews were a race or were in a race. I'm not sure what she thought. And I thought, you know, this new one was Sunny, pretty dumb. And then Joey Behar in her own echo chamber. I'm going to say the dumbest people who still watch the show.
Yes.
The whole audience clapped by the
studio audience.
Statements, yeah.
Whoopi, though.
She's funny, right?
No.
Oh, okay. I was trying to find some kind of redeeming thing to say about The View. You could see right through me.
Well, at least Joy and Whoopi were fact-checking this time
Yes.
around. That was surprising, a pleasant one.
Yeah, it was. We won't be seeing. Is shaming descendants of this. Will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has? 31.
31 Emmys?
This show has 31. I mean, I'd hate to see the conversations that don't make headlines. What?
And we don't have a single
Not a
Emmy.
single
You don't
one.
Have what does that tell you about the Emmys, Kat? Yes, thank you, Mr. Boo. Give that man a free cup of water. Charlie,
In Gutfeld's view, someone who so often holds others accountable for historical injustices should be just as willing to confront the uncomfortable truths within their own family history. But instead of showing deep reflection, or even a hint of remorse, Sunny's reaction struck many, especially her critics, as dismissive. He argued that if this revelation had involved someone else, Sunny would likely have called for a public reckoning. Yet, when the past pointed back at her, that same urgency was noticeably absent. To Gutfeld, this wasn't just about ancestry, it was about accountability. The perceived inconsistency in Sunny's response became the focal point of his criticism. For him, the issue wasn't only what was uncovered, but how she chose to deal with it.
I know, right? I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful, one of our wonderful makeup artists, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on and she was like, Jesus is coming.
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't.
Welcome back to All-Star Buzz. Thanks for joining us. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and we couldn't do it without you. Now let's get into today's story. It all started with a stunning twist on the PBS series Finding Your Roots, where celebrities uncover surprising truths about their ancestry. The latest guest was The View co-host Sunny Hostin, known for her outspoken takes on race, justice, and social issues. But what she learned about her own family's past left both her and the audience completely stunned. For years, Sunny has proudly identified as half Puerto Rican, embracing a legacy of cultural pride, resilience, and the struggles tied to colonial history. But the show's researchers traced her lineage back even further, and what they found was shocking. Her ancestors didn't just come from Spain, they were also slaveholders. The look on Sunny's face as she absorbed the revelation was raw and emotional. It was a moment of real vulnerability that contrasted sharply with her usual public persona, and it immediately sparked widespread conversation online and in the media. Enter Greg Gutfeld. The Fox News host and outspoken commentator wasted no time responding. On The Five, Gutfeld delivered a scathing monologue aimed directly at what he saw as a glaring double standard. In his view, Sunny, who has built much of her platform on calling out systemic racism and America's historical failings, suddenly found herself face-to-face with a personal connection to that same history. And her response? To Gutfeld, it was far too casual. Sunny's comment, "I guess it's a fact of life. That's how some people made their living," struck many, including Gutfeld, as dismissive. He argued that if someone else had made the same discovery, Sunny would have demanded public accountability. But when the truth pointed back at her, the energy wasn't the same. For Gutfeld, that inconsistency was the core issue, not the ancestry itself, but how Sunny handled it. He said this wasn't just about lineage, it was about accountability. And in that moment, he believed Sunny fell short. To many viewers, Sunny's lack of self-awareness spoke volumes. Here was someone quick to judge others, now hesitating to judge herself. Gutfeld drove the point home with a brutal jab, imagining a future episode of The View, where Sunny criticizes America's history, only for someone to say, "Sure, but not slave owner racist, like your great-great-great-grandfather." Harsh? Yes. But it underscored a deeper question. Can someone who has built a reputation around moral authority maintain that credibility when their own story challenges it? Gutfeld emphasized that people are allowed to change when presented with new information, but that growth starts with acknowledgement, not deflection. He felt Sunny missed an opportunity to show humility, reflect publicly, and possibly grow. Instead, she seemed to brush it off with a shrug. He asked the tough questions. Would Sunny continue criticizing others with ties to historical injustice, knowing now that she shares that lineage? Would she revise her message, or just ignore this inconvenient truth? This, Gutfeld said, wasn't about shaming. It was about consistency. If someone constantly champions identity-based justice, they should be prepared to scrutinize all aspects of their own identity, even the uncomfortable parts. That, he argued, was the irony of the situation. Sunny, a frequent voice on issues of race, privilege, and oppression, apparently didn't know her full story. And when that story clashed with the values she promotes, her reaction lacked the introspection many expected. Gutfeld didn't stop there. He joked, "Maybe now we know why she makes Whoopi get the coffee." A biting line meant to highlight how Sunny's words about injustice might not always match her actions, even in small ways. Critics saw it as a reminder. Self-awareness matters. The moment struck a chord. Social media lit up. Clips of Sunny's reaction went viral. Comment sections were flooded with reactions, memes, and debate. One user wrote, "Sunny learning her ancestors were slaveholders is the plot twist we didn't see coming." But Gutfeld's reaction? Absolute gold. Another said, "Her hypocrisy finally caught up with her, and Gutfeld nailed it." But not everyone agreed with the backlash. Defenders argued Sunny was simply processing shocking information in real time, and that it's unfair to expect a perfect response to something so personal. They saw the criticism as lacking empathy and context. Still, for many viewers, the issue wasn't just the discovery, it was the way she handled it. The tone, the pivot, the absence of deeper reflection. All of it felt tone-deaf, especially coming from someone known for demanding accountability from others. Gutfeld's takedown turned into more than a viral moment. It became a symbol of the broader culture war we're living through. Or text tailored for a specific platform like YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram Reels.